This image. When I saw it, well, I could tell that it was a special image. Sure, you may think that it's just your average meme that's meant to parody or maybe embody rage comics, and, well, maybe that's what it was meant to be. I don't view it so simply. To me, it represents so much more than that simple idea of being funny through its unorthodox costume, and I hope you will be able to see that as well. First, though, you must take a look at the basic meaning, as, after all, this image is meant to be seen by a lot of people, and, well, I don't think you can expect everyone to understand its deeper meanings. At the tip of the iceberg, the goal of this image is meant to be a joke, and that's perfectly fine. It's completely acceptable and basically expected for us to view this image in some feed or something, maybe laugh and then go on to another image. However, why is this image funny? There have been countless answers posed to answer the question of why are things funny, and of course, I have no idea as to what such an answer would be, but there are people who may know a thing or two about humor. One of the oldest humor theories comes from Plato and Aristotle, and it says that humor is derived from the misfortune of others. While not a bad hypothesis, I would have to say that, at least in my opinion, a rather simple minded explanation, though I do not want to insult anyone related to it. After all, modern humor has come a long way, as humor is something that tends to evolve. The more you hear a joke, the less likely you're to enjoy it, so more jokes must be made. In the internet age, you're presented with so many different memes that your humor must evolve in order for you to be able to continuously consume them. At least, that is if you view a lot of them. Going back to the theory though, it can be applicable here as we see a person in the picture and, to a degree, it may even be true. The reason as to why it is so funny could simply be because of how ridiculous and stupid the man looks. I mean, come on. Who dresses like an outdated meme? Is this guy some loser stuck in the past? That stupidity may just be what is so entertaining, but of course, I don't find this person stupid at all. You could argue that I could still find the man's stupidity humorous subconsciously, and though I cannot argue with that, I also don't think it's an argument that will get us anywhere. Another explanation comes from the incongruity theory, the idea that humor stems from things that just don't work together. A good example would be cursed images, whose entire purpose is to be illogical. Just go to the cursed images subreddit. An elephant drinking from an outside toilet? A playground next to a crime scene? 27 raccoons in some yard at night? These images themselves do not have any sort of build-up or resolution, nor do they make fun of anyone. They just seem illogical. And maybe that's funny in and of itself. Our image also fits here as, well, it is illogical. Why is the man wearing this provocative costume in a crowd of normal people? That confusion itself may be the key to the funniness of the image. The most recent and my favorite of these is the benign violations theory, which, to simplify, states this. 1. There needs to be some sort of a norm violation, be it moral, physical, or social. 2. There needs to be a safe or benign context the violation takes place in. 3. The violation must appear as relatively harmless. This is actually a really good attempt at explaining humor. It is able to explain why knock-knock jokes, puns, offensive anecdotes, and even surreal memes are funny. It breaks some sort of a norm. Our image, of course, also follows these 3 rules. It violates a social norm of appropriate dressing, it takes place in a rather tame environment, and it is not that harmful to anyone. All that being said though, we've only really discussed the idea that the purpose of this image is to be humorous, and while I do think that's the case to a decent extent, it doesn't mean that's all there is to it. However, we are not even ready to read the text as we still haven't talked about a crucial part of this image, what the costume represents. If you are not a child, you likely remember Rage comics, a very popular type of meme back in 2009. The costume attempts to imitate one of the more popular characters, that being the like a boss character. The character itself fits the image, as it represents the confidence in doing casual things, which our protagonist does more than well enough by confidently walking or even simply standing with an unusual costume. Of course, Rage comics have come and gone, or so some may think. It's no surprise that trends come and go. After all, we humans get bored of things eventually. In the case of modern memes, these trends keep growing smaller and smaller in terms of their duration because our attention spans slowly drop. However, some manage to claw their way back, as ironic memes. To some degree, their idea remains, but it is twisted to where the idea itself is funny. According to the benign violation theory, the norm changes, and so does the violation. Take, for example, the trolled meme, where, say, you're unsuccessful at doing something and the funny troll face appears to say, "Problem?" In this case, the norm is you not succeeding, and the violation is that some weird face is laughing at you. However, see we add some more irony to this meme by adding another panel where we see a sad troll face saying, "I can't take this anymore." Here, the norm is the expected normal rage comic we described before, and the violation is something that should not be in the original comic. So, coming back to our image, we can then begin to interpret it in new ways. At a surface level, the point is to dress up as a funny costume and to be in a place you wouldn't expect. At a deeper level, though, the man dresses up as a rage comic, something that has been deemed largely unfunny, yet he remains confident. At an even deeper level, the man dresses up as the rage comic, which is now deemed ironically funny by those that have seen rage comics appear, die, and come back. These interpretations are all valid, and these simply depend on how the viewer observes the original image. Now that we have discussed the man, we can begin to tackle the text. It's hard being epic in a world of fail. Let's start with the surface level, which once again refers us to rage comics. The terms epic and fail are both used somewhat frequently in rage comics, though they are used less in the comics themselves and more by their posters to describe the comic. By definition, epic means grand in scale or character, and in these descriptions, by saying epic rage comic, it is implied that the comic itself is grand in character and therefore really funny. Fail is not quite the opposite of this, as it more so says that the protagonist of the comic itself fails. However, you can also find memes that are grouped together by their use of epic fail to present a failure by something or someone, be it big or small, as epic. Either way, coming back to our image, describing yourself as epic is meant to imply that you are very funny, and therefore the world of fail is then a world of failures, where nothing ever goes as it maybe should. It is then reasonable to assume that it would be difficult to be different and special, as you are a part of said world of fail. However, you have to remember that we are primarily observing this meme from the eyes of the implied protagonist, the man with the costume who is saying the phrase. What about other people? Well, it's likely that they wouldn't agree with the statement, and it's more likely that when they don't see the costume as amusing, they would think that this man is wasting his time. On the other hand, when the man thinks of himself as superior to those around him, he may be overconfident in both his humor and actions, and what he perceives as good may be more widely perceived as childish. However, we mustn't stop our analysis there, as the man likely understands how he is perceived, and he may too understand that this won't get him anywhere, and yet he does it anyway. He does it not because it is the best use of his time, but he does it to protest against that very perception. By putting on this costume, the man confidently announces that he will not yield to the routine, and he will, at least temporarily, act how he wishes, against the social norms imposed on him. In such a case, the world of fail is the normal world we live in, and he is the one that is perceived as fail. Does that mean he is not epic? Not at all. After all, by both of the meanings that he used, he is very much epic. If by epic we mean very funny, then he fits into the benign violation theory quite well, breaking the social norm of normality with the fairly harmless violation of a costume. If by epic we mean grand in character, then this man, at least in comparison to the people around him, is certainly much more grander in his character. However, we can go a step further as, after all, this meme doesn't have to remain in its own context, and this text doesn't have to only talk about the man. But without this context, we lose the implied meaning of the terms epic and fail. We can infer that they represent good and bad, but what does good and bad even mean? Of course, it's not my place to tell you that, not that I have the answer. However, in my opinion, it is us who decide as to what good and bad is, and when you look at the world around you, you will see that there are many concepts we have deemed good and bad. The question is, what do they all share? Is there something that we can all agree is truly good? Well, no, probably not, especially when it comes to people that would normally be considered as bad. However, when it comes to what is commonly considered as good, we can refer to morality, and it is us who decide what that morality is. Say we take something that is commonly seen as negative, killing people. I think that most of us can agree that doing this is a bad thing, however, why is that? For example, animals kill each other, which is quite natural, so are we not going against nature itself when we say that we cannot kill each other? You may say not, because we are the same species, but then again, there are species that kill others of their own kind. Would you consider giraffes as evil? Even if you say that these are only for animals and not humans, different cultures have different standards for when they may kill their members. Some may do so for smaller infractions, others for major, and modern ones may avoid the death penalty completely. But my point is that whatever the decision ends up being, it is decided by people, and not all people like to follow other people. When the man refers to the world of fail, he may not just mean a world filled with failures, he may deem the entire system as flawed by his perception. The man may think that killing other people should be allowed, or he may think that it should be punished more, but either way, he may disagree with the idea of what good itself is. He may decide that in his morality, the good is to wear this costume and that the bad is to wear anything else. Of course, we should also not forget about him trying to be epic, as here he clearly implies that he is trying to be different from the world he is in. It's possible that this can be seen as selfish, as in he is better than everyone else, but when the man decides his own morality and judges good and bad by his own standards, his epic can mean whatever he wants. He can be a guy whose goal is to help as many people as he can in any way. For example, dressing up in a funny costume to entertain them. He can be a serial killer dead set on killing everyone in the world, as the mere existence of humanity is evil. When you distort the baseline morality to fit with your own view of life, you can get away with anything, at least in your own mind. However, where this gets even more interesting is when we peel away from the meme to look at ourselves. To me, this is where this image finally begins to really shine, as I can view the man as myself. And what is my world of fail? Though I do so somewhat jokingly, I like to view myself as an artist, and if I could choose a reality to exist in, I would like one where I could truly freely create anything I want to. You may say that this is quite achievable with modern tools, and you would be right, but what I live in now is most certainly not true freedom, as I must abide by social and moral norms. It's not that I particularly want to break them, but when I make a video, I am often scared of how it will be received. After all, by putting out something I consider interesting, I make myself vulnerable, which is when people that may view my content negatively can come in and strike the hardest. Take Disconnected Mungus, a video that I find quite funny. However, if I were to be in a, say, unfriendly high school, I might get bullied endlessly for making such a stupid video. Is it not impossible for me to receive some mockery for it now? I can handle a decent amount of that, probably, but that doesn't mean I could withstand it all. All these doubts and fears sometimes stop me from uploading what I truly wish to upload, and such thoughts are present in my world of fail. However, these can still be overcome. The next issue comes from money and survival. After all, I cannot do this forever if I can't make money off of it. I can stay with my parents for a while, but I'll have to think about my own way of surviving eventually. Then I'll likely have to find a job that is unrelated to YouTube and which will likely not help me in making art. There is, however, the option of making YouTube my job, but this would force me to upload videos that are more commonly enjoyed by people, which is not what I want to do. I want to make videos that people find not just entertaining, but also interesting or unique or unexpected, and the inability to do so forever and freely is present in my world of fail. Yet, even if I'm able to somehow fully overcome the expectations of my viewers while also being able to still upload anything I truly want, I will still be burdened by my own humanity. I must still eat and sleep, and the amount of time that is lost in such menial activities is ridiculous. A third of your entire life. However, these are far from the worst time wasters, as they are at least sometimes enjoyable and I have accepted that I require them. The most insidious problem is my limited supply of motivation and passion. Regardless of how I live, I will still be burdened with laziness. Granted, this can be fought against and I have been moving in the right direction. For example, I used to watch 5 to 6 hours of YouTube a day, and now I'm at around 1 hour. However, that is not enough. Not nearly enough. The free time I have is plagued with addictive activities to occupy my brain. I take an hour to get out of bed. I play games out of sheer boredom, and I do not strive to better myself physically or socially. All these time wasters are present in my world of fail. Yes, my world of fail is vast, and the world of epic is a nigh unreachable utopia, as even if I were to transfer my consciousness into a machine that could not feel boredom and laziness, I would still probably find something imperfect in it. And as I have built the world around me to be so impossible to conquer, It truly is difficult for me to thrive in it, to be the machine of pure creativity that satisfies everyone who observes its work. However, such is the human condition and such is life. We may never truly realize our individual potentials, as so many have failed before us. But it is not as if we cannot dream about utopias, and when we do so, this image, mere ones and zeros arranged in a clever way, can question us about just how difficult it is to be epic in a world of fail.